Great evening, everybody. Great Saturday. I'm sorry, great Friday. I hope everybody had a great week.
I'm about to say it's Saturday already.
Hey, man, I'm thinking about the game already. I apologize. Listen, man, I hope everybody had a great week. Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast, sponsored by the Empowering Perspective community. I am your host, Dwayne Dwyer, the coach mindset, and I'm joined by my co host, Roland, Mr. Roland Walker, rolling down the street, right?
Yeah,
And also my other co-host, Chris McClellan from Chris from across the table on the other side of the table. Gentlemen, how are you on this wonderful Friday evening?
it's Friday.
It is
Just got
Friday.
paid the other day, but yeah, I'm doing good.
I'm well. I'm well.
Did you just bring up an old school song just now? Just got paid.
We got to go old
You know
school.
what, man? He doing it again, yeah. He is doing it again. Listen, man, welcome to this evening show, man. And I definitely appreciate each and every one of you who are joining us. Shout out to this chat room already, man. They're ready, they're alive, they're in there. Shout out Lisa Keys, Michelle Ray. I need to find out who Facebook user is. Give me a second. I
That
will
was
call
me.
you. That's you?
That was
Okay.
me. That was
Okay.
me.
My bad. Shout out to Cassandra McKenzie, Tawami Gaddy. Good to see you, young Timothy. Always a pleasure to see you guys in the chat. Shout out to the livest chat on YouTube, Facebook, and any other platform out there. Listen, this, I don't know if you guys put it together yet. This is a continuation from last week because last week we talked about emotion. So listen, for those of you who are out there who have not had the pleasure of listening to our conversation last week, go back and listen to that. We talked about men and emotions. I think it's a very interesting conversation. I think we got a lot from it. I think people who joined us, they got a lot from it as well. And also, that being said, it is a great segue into what we're going to talk about today, because today is all about how do men express emotions. Now, listen, I don't know about you guys, but this pretty much has been a consistent topic of my life. I mean, what about you guys?
Hmm.
I'm still learning.
Mm,
I'm still learning.
Still learning. I think when it comes to topic of conversation, it's more or less about what you don't do.
mm. I like where you're going with this already. So, see what I'm saying? I keep trying to tell people I'm just a point guard on this basketball team. You guys make all the shots. So again, we're about to dive knee deep into this discussion, and by all means, get in the chat, give us your perspective, give us your questions. We love answering questions because that's what this is all about. This is all about empowering the young men for the future. You know, them young men that are actually being raised up in the home by their moms, the young men who are already out there in the world trying to figure life out. And also, if there's an older guy out there who's still trying to figure it out, trust me, we can talk to those guys as well. We love each and every one of you, and
Men
we
like
are
me.
here. Stop that.
No, seriously, seriously. Men like me who weren't taught how to do this.
Good point. Very good point. So let's dive into it. Somebody got a phone next to their microphone. Just move it out just a little bit. We won't get that static. So let's kind of dive into this real quick. Um, as you know, I like baseline and understanding, and I don't want to bring in Webster's definition because I believe Webster's definition is wrong. And I want to start off. I'm going to let you know what it says um, in a second after you guys kind of give us your perspective on it. So, what is love, in your opinions? What is love?
I'll yield to Mr. Rowland. I'm this is you see, I'm gonna be honest with you. This is gonna be one of those shows where I do more listening than talking.
That's okay.
See, I think when we try to put one definition on love, love is an action word, love is a verb, and all these things. We can go biblical and say what love is, but love is something that's shown not necessarily from the heart, because the heart can deceive you, but from a caring for an individual, a person, or whatever other noun you want to add in there. But love is the expression of one's true feelings that are positive about someone or thing.
Hmm. So I want to kind of ask a question before we go any further because you said not necessarily from the heart because the heart can deceive you. What do you mean when you say that?
I think we can confuse emotions with and feelings with love. And love doesn't have to do necessarily with feelings, because I don't always feel like feeding my family, going to work. I don't always feel like being the bigger person in the relationship. I don't always feel like I should be, you know, I should do certain things, but because I love a person, I will go the extra mile. Because I love the person, I'll make sacrifices.
Hmm. I like it. I like it.
So it is an action.
Yes.
Okay.
I like it.
I'm learning. I'm learning because, like I said, I have a distorted view of what love is, and I would rather hear from people who have had different experiences and more positive experiences with love, so that way I can get a good understanding of what I should be looking at and how I should take it when somebody tells me that they love me.
Good. I'm glad you said that. But if you don't mind, give us what that distorted perception of what love is for you, or was.
Manipulation.
Mm,
It's manipulation. Do
mm,
this because you say you love me. You know what I'm saying? Agree with me even when I'm wrong because you love me. Tell me what I want to hear because you love me. And like I said last time, you can't lie to somebody and say that you love them at the same time.
yeah.
I don't think those two things go together.
Yeah. I
Um
like it.
so yeah, like I said, my view is distorted. My view is extremely distorted.
Mm, good point. I'm glad. I'm glad you said that. Listen, everybody in the chat, man, give us what your personal definition of love is. I want to kind of, get some feedback on what you guys see as we go through this. Because for me, I would tell you that in the past, that's kind of like what I believe love was. Exactly what Chris just said. That's why I wanted him to share it. Simply because at the end of the day, when I looked around, that's what I seen. It was a way of convincing somebody to do something that you want, and if for whatever reason they didn't do it, then you got upset or you got mad or whatever that looks like. And so over the years, I had to recondition the way I thought about it, because what I realized is that image of love is wrong, and other images that we see on TV is wrong, and it was over glamorized to a thing that looks more like, just reducing yourself to nothing for the sake of making another person happy. So what I've seen and witnessed over the years is love wasn't really love; it was more so of like. And when a person don't like you, then they believe you don't love them. So you spend a great amount of your time making sure that they don't fall out of like with you, and you call it love. But here's the thing, and I think what I'm going to say, my definition kind of sums up Roland's definition. Roland got a little bit more educated on the definition than what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna just keep it simple, and then we're kind of going to get into the details behind it. Because for me, when I went back and kind of stripped myself of everything I thought I knew, I realized that love is just one word and one word only. It's a commitment. When I started looking at love as a commitment, it doesn't matter how I feel right now. It doesn't even matter if I like you right now, because I trust me, I can love you and I don't like you in this moment. And I can tell you that I don't like you and tell you why. And if we're in a space, going back to last week's conversation, if we're in a space where you can hear me express myself to you and you hear the words that I'm saying, even if I am emotional, like Roland brought to the table last week, even if I am emotional, right? If you love me, you can hear what I'm saying. And if I am more important than your ego, then you can respond to what I'm saying, not how I'm saying. And so I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and it also used improperly. The term love can be used improperly, where people will say, "If you love me, do this,"
Right.
or the terms "making love," or like, no, we ain't making love. I know it sounds better to your ego or your psyche or whatever, but that's not what we doing when we coming up, because I barely know you, so I can't actually love you, because my commitment is only there for the moment,
Yeah.
like you said. So puppy love, being in love, out of love. No, once you love, love continues. Love doesn't just go away, because my children, if they mess up, if they do something that I dislike, I don't stop loving them. I'm disappointed, but the love it will continue. If I actually love a person and it's genuine, because we have a mishap, it doesn't go away. That, and I show you I care and I continue in that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, so is love an obligation? Because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like an obligation to continuously care for someone despite your emotional state in the process, whether good or bad. So is that what it is? I'm trying to understand. That's why I'm asking.
Well, I think, and I'm obligated to pay my phone bill every month. So, but if I don't, I can go with Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, somebody else. So you see how wishy-washy that can be, an obligation, because the obligation is when I feel like something. So
Yeah.
I think we can be obligated to certain things for periods of time, but when it comes to love, it's more than. That's why you don't just, as they say, when it comes to your spouse or when it comes to your love, is always attached to somebody that's long term and never somebody that's short term.
Right. And I want to kind of piggyback off of what Roland said. Great question that you asked, Chris. And what I will add to that is that love isn't an obligation, but and for me, it's more of an umbrella, and under that umbrella is the obligations that you have to the thing or the person or the entity that you actually love. So I have an obligation to display love in whatever manner I have learned how to display it. And if I do not fulfill that obligation, then I have the opportunity to look at self and say, well, do I really love this thing or this person or whatever the way that I say I do? So, obligation, if you take obligation and put it at the top, then it reduces what love really is because it becomes a job.
Okay, I'm like I said, I'm just trying to understand. So love, like you said, is a commitment to the other person to, I guess, act in a. I hate to use the word love and loving in the definition. So I, like I said, I'm just trying to understand. I'm just trying to understand. That's all. I'm
No,
just trying to
you're
get it.
good. You're good. And I think as we continue down this conversation, it will make more sense because I think we're going to present some ideas that kind of challenge not just our perception, but others' perception that may not necessarily view it in this manner. We're not saying that our definitions and our perspective is 100% right. That's why I keep always asking the chat room to just give us their perspective, their feedback, and things of that nature because everybody's perspective is valued. Shout out, Sharina. Welcome to the show. Great to always see you. Um, I kind of put some of the information up previously. Michelle Ray had a great statement earlier. Love is a deliberate and continuous act of valuing someone more than you value yourself. I think that kind of goes back in line with what we're saying. And then Cassandra said, I learned love when I became a mom, the unconditional developed devotion to something or someone despite their flaws and downfalls. I love those responses. Um, Young Timothy chiming in as well. He said, love will push you past your emotions and selfish drive. So this kind of helps us to paint the picture of what love looks like. And again, just again, as we go through this, just kind of consider it and conceptualize it as we press forward. Now, that being said, I also want to take our time, the panel, and also I invite you guys in the chat to do the same. And what I would like to do is do a real quick life reflection, and I think we kind of started off a little bit, but what did love look like to you as a young man, a young male, or a young teenager, just growing up? Where did you get to the point where you understand and say, "Hey, I think that's love, and I like it, or I need it. I need to figure out how to do it." So, what did it look like in your life?
Well, for me, I didn't. I never really was attached to people, but because I had hurts coming up, and those hurts made me put everybody like a fence around myself to where I'm good. So I tried to guard my feelings and everything. And so love with another person was always something that I ran from. I ran from feelings. I didn't want feelings. I wanted to be in the moment, but never be in the commitment.
I like that. I think for me, I kind of shared it. I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to think about how I want to put this. If you talking about how I view love coming up,
How you
like I
experienced
said,
it.
how I experienced it, like I said,
Yeah.
it was manipulation.
Mm.
It was manipulation. It was a system. It was a system of the illusion of control. You love me, so you should do this. If you don't do this, you don't love me.
Yeah.
Um, and the more I grew up and saw how miserable I was doing those things out of the false pretense of love, I kind of got the thought process like I'm like, love isn't supposed to feel like this.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to feel like trash loving somebody. Like I'm not supposed to feel this low loving somebody. And I'm not supposed to allow this person, whether it be family, friends, or somebody that I'm dating. I don't think somebody that I'm supposed to love or somebody that loves me would attempt to walk all over me like they are.
Mm.
So that's when I became like rolling and separating myself. Like, hey, this ain't what this isn't what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So until I figure out where this is coming from, I don't think I should be involving myself with anybody. And in a lot of cases, I had to remove myself from my family too. Because with family, that word love comes with a sense of blind loyalty that you're supposed to have to them. And I don't
Mm.
believe in blind loyalty anymore. I'm loyal with my eyes wide open. And I'm not about to condone anything and everything that you do or come defend anything and everything that you do, even when you wrong, just because we share the same blood through our veins. I'm not about to do that because, like I said in the beginning, I would be lying to you. And I cannot say that I love you and I respect you and lie to you at the same time. Those two things cannot be in the same place at the same time to me. So that would be how I experienced it.
So you just opened up a can of worms, right? And I hope you don't mind if I kind of dig a little deeper in this. And Roland, you can help us out with this as well. So you kind of presented the idea that love and the absence of the truth cannot occupy the same space. Am I
It
correct there?
can't. It
It
can't. I
can't.
can't lie to you and tell you I love you. That's a slap in the face.
And I want people to get that, right? It's not just lying from the perspective of telling you something wrong. It is also the omission of the information that you know would lead to the truth. I think that's a big piece to consider here because when we say we love a person, I'm going back to your word, Chris. When we say we love, we have an obligation that is rooted in the fiber of love itself.
See, I think that, but when love may be perfect, but we're not.
Correct.
So I think there may be a time where someone has made a mistake and deliberately misled, lied, however you want to frame it.
But if it was deliberate, was it really a mistake?
Well, yes,
A lot
Okay.
of people know
it,
what
it
they
was a deliberate
doing,
mistake.
man. A lot of people they know what they doing. They just waiting on you to say
I
something.
agree. Just like people say, like people like to say, you use that, in church, sins knowingly and unknowingly. Like you knew that wasn't your wife. Now let me stop. But
Oh, we going there.
you know, you know,
Hmm.
but remember the movie Boomerang? Yes, I'm going to the old movies. Boomerang, when Halle Berry he came and he said, he slept with Mike Tyson ex-wife, and then he Robin Givens, and then he came back to her because a light clicked,
Hmm.
and then he said, "But I love you," and then she said, "Well, if you love me, love would have brought your blank home." Now he had to go through a process to see how he was damaging the person that his affections were towards. He what he did was an act of deception to the relationship. But that's where the forgiveness and everything else comes along. I'm not even gonna get on that train because I can get there all stay all day.
Right,
But
right, right.
the love that she has for him now can take what he did and they can mend. They can mend that broken part of that. But it's not a perfect thing. It's love ain't gonna be, oh, I love this person, and because sometimes it may be a what we consider a little white lie. Baby, did you pay the bills? Yeah, I paid them. I'm just not trying to hear your mouth. So yeah, I paid them. Hit the switch, lights ain't coming on.
Right.
Oh, I forgot. So it's degrees.
And see, I am good with honest mistakes. And I want to make sure I'm clear when I say that. I am okay with honest mistakes. But intentional acts of deception because you're trying to feed your ego or simply because it's all about me in this particular moment. And oh yeah, I forgot about these things that I made a commitment to whatever. Again, if it's an intentional act of deception, and here's the worst part about it: if I bring it to your attention and you're fighting me, oh, we fist to talk about this. That's just me. It's and
You a
again,
better one than me, coach, because I ain't
well,
talking. The
well,
moment
I
you
will.
decide to argue with me after I point out something that you know you did was wrong, that would probably be the last conversation I have with you.
But see, love is the thing that makes me have the conversation. If you're a stranger, I ain't gonna do the arguing thing. That's the difference for me, right? And I want to make sure I'm stressing it, and that's why I got to say for me because I'm not saying that everybody has to do this, but the discussion is the recognition of what he just said, right? What Roland just said. That's where the discussion comes in at. Because here's the deal: I am very forgiving as long as I ain't got to fight with you to issue forgiveness for the thing that you did. If I got to fight with you to issue forgiveness for the thing that you did, then what you're telling me is that you are the most important person in this relationship, situationship, or whatever kind of shit we're on, right? And if you feel that you're the most important person in this situationship, relationship, or whatever, then you're telling me the longer we go through it, that I need to get off at the next stop. Because here's the deal: I go back to what I said in the beginning. Love is whether I like you or dislike you. Just because I separate myself from you for a period of time doesn't mean I don't love you. It means I need to protect my peace because right now you are in violation. But again, this
And
is life reflections.
and that's where that whole 50-50 thing comes in. And people say, well, 50-50, I think if you're giving me 50, you're giving somebody else the other 50. So when it comes to love, we my love for you has to be 100%, because when it's not, then I leave for error, room for others, room for everything else. And we find ourselves in situationships or whatever Jada said, those type of entanglements.
Entanglement.
Yeah,
That's the word,
yeah,
entanglement. The dumbest thing
entanglement
I've ever heard in my
because
life.
of lust, because of desire, because we attach our feelings and we say, "Oh, I love what they do. I love this." And but when you're in a relationship with a person, it's all about the union. And I want to see the union grow. And when one person doesn't want to see the union grow, the love in me, just like you both said, can say, "Well, I love you enough to release you from this commitment, because the commitment is not going to benefit you, it's not going to benefit me. And at the end of the day, if I'm not receiving what I think I deserve, what I know I deserve, then I got to step out. I got to step away, because if I don't step away, I'm going to hurt. And if I hurt, I'm going to want to hurt. So I rather remove
Mm.
myself.
Mm.
See, we're about to get into the next phase of this discussion because I think that's where we're going, right? I think we've already started down this road of the common misconceptions of love when it comes to men. Because unfortunately, for me, we start talking about, oh man, Thaddeus Butler, greetings, my friend. Good to have you. Good to have you.
Yeah, yeah. Word to
Yeah,
Thaddeus.
that's my brother. That's my brother. Good to see you, Thaddeus. So go back and look at the podcast me and Thaddeus did a while back. Great man, great man right there. I love Thaddeus. But yeah, so when we start looking at the common misconceptions of love, right? We kind of go back and you hear some of the things that we shared, and we have to conclude that based upon some of the messagings that we received in the past and some of the things that we seen, whether it's on TV, whether it's in our community, whether it's in our own household. Like, what were some of the common misconceptions that you had about love?
Hmm. I think I kind of went over mine. The fact that love comes with blind loyalty, and like I said, I'm loyal with my eyes wide open. I don't care if we related. I don't care how long we've known each other. I don't care if we're dating. I'm not about to be loyal to you just because you here. I'm not about to be loyal to you just because we related. You might do some dumb nonsense that I might have to say, hey, you wildin', and I might have to remove myself from you, family or not, because I can't be associated with that. I love you enough to remove myself from the nonsense that you're doing because I can't be associated with that. Good luck.
Mm. What you
Mis-
got? What you got, brother minister?
oh, misconceptions about love from men. I think uh, women would always think that because you give your body to a man, that's your expression of love to me. So the way to for you to show that you love me is to lay down, or uh, that's a misconception. That just pacifies my urges and desires, but that's not necessarily a love thing. Because once I climax, then it's like, okay, what's on ESPN? So I think misconceptions. I'm with Chris when it comes to how the manipulation tactics come in, because and men also do that when we have done things to our significant others, let them down. We will say, but don't you love me? You can't leave me if you love me, like Ike Turner or something. It's like, you throw that guilt trip on her
Right.
because you have a problem, and you expect her to deal with it, her to go through it and love you through it.
Yeah, that's good. I've seen all of that, especially with the misconceptions. I think for me, my misconception of love was that a man isn't lovable unless he can perform. That was my
Ooh.
misconception. So if you don't have a job, then you're not worthy of love. If you don't, do the manly chores per se, you're not worthy of love. If your sex ain't top notch, you ain't worthy of love. Like, all of those things were conditions that men need to meet. And I'm not saying that it was something that anybody ever told me. It was just one of those things that I absorbed by virtue of the information that I've seen, right? And so all of these conditions men had to meet. And I'm not saying this from a perspective, and keep in mind we're just talking about the men, because I understand society put conditions on women as well, right? But if a man isn't working and doesn't have a good job, if a man doesn't, cut the grass or make sure all the things are fixed, if a man can't do any work on a car, get the car fixed, if a man isn't doing the exact same thing that somebody else of the opposite sex thinks he needs to be doing for his child, right? If all of these things, right? If you're not meeting all of these benchmarks, then you're not lovable. So for me, I think that was one of the biggest misconceptions that I had, because I equated love with performance, just like a job.
But society teaches
Exactly.
that. Society still teaches that, because, and you get on any platform that has men and women, and you will see when women say what they want in a man, they got a laundry list of stuff and achievements that he should attain before even talking to her. But a man, like, oh, she got a fat, oh, she got, it's more about the physical with a man. He ain't thinking about love,
Right.
because he's not really trying to get to know her here. He just wants what he sees. And women will take a lesser looking man if he has, like, come on now. Everybody see Jay-Z. They like, how Jay-Z get? Because Jay-Z got money. How Biggie get faith? He had money. How, they look at these people who are less appealing, but they have those monetary gifts and all these other things, and then where you can grow to love them. But men don't do that. Men ain't looking like, oh man, Whoopi Goldberg, or oh man, that's how we think. You think, oh, I want Maya, I want whomever it is that you desire physically. You don't say, well, she got to have a degree, she got to have her stuff together, a house, her own, this, that, and other. Most men, we look at physical attributes while they look at things that they can retire from. I can do less and still get ahead.
Yeah.
So love is a verb.
Yes.
Okay.
I love the fact that Chris is he is compartmentalizing this as we go with it. I love the fact that he's doing that because and when I say this, it's not to destroy anybody's perception. It's just giving us things to consider as we go through this conversation. But this is what we've done for years, right? Love is an emotion. Love is an action. Love is it's a thing, right? So we are conditioned. We are linear thinkers by trait, right? We are taught that 1 + 1, everybody gonna say 2, right? But when we start throwing some different stuff in there, 1 + 1 × 3 divided by 6 carried to the square root of 5, right? In parentheses, you can be like, wait, I got to exercise a principle to do this equation. And I think that's what love is. Love is one of those long equations to where you got to exercise principles to get to the equation. You can't do it without a principle. You can't do it without some principles, but I might be getting a little ahead of myself tonight. But, I think it's important for us to consider these misconceptions because this becomes the worldview that you have relationships with. When we start talking about the manipulation that Chris mentioned, you start having relationships through the lens of manipulation. When you start talking about the performance that I mentioned, you start having relationship through the lens of performance. So as soon as you get somebody, Valentine's Day coming around, oh, I got to go buy this. I got to go get this. And I got to present it to them. I got to do this. Oh, birthday coming around. Oh, I got to go do this. I got to do this. Oh, if you are of age and have children, oh, Mother's Day coming around. I got to do this. Also Christmas is coming up. So I got to go do this. So viewing your relationship through the lens of your perception of love will have you to move at the speed of your understanding. And I think it's okay for us to understand that our perception is limited at best. I think it was Roland that mentioned perfection earlier. None of us is perfect. None of us have perfect perception, right? So we're viewing the world through the lens of the learning of what we experienced, like the things that we learned in our life, hopefully, right? If you didn't learn, then you're just going to keep repeating the same thing until you learn the lesson and move to a higher plane. Then that's how it works. And so now I want to bring in another idea because now we're talking about this is what we know and how do we communicate. Now I want to set the conditions before we get started because we talked about emotions last week. Again, if you didn't get a chance to take a look at it, by all means go back and look at it because that is going to be a great segue into this. So how do men at their current level of awareness, how do men communicate love verbally?
I have absolutely no idea, so I'm going to defer to y'all. I'm telling you, I'm learning. I've never, like I said before in the last live stream, I was always taught that my feelings, or I'm not going to say always, I'm going to say the majority of the relationships that I've been in, I've been treated like my emotions really took a backseat to everything else happening. So I never really got to verbally express how I felt or verbally express love. So it would be dope to figure out certain ways on how to do that. So I'm gonna mute my mic and I'm just gonna listen.
I love his honesty, don't you?
Yeah. And I think I really didn't learn how to express love until I had grandkids. Because I grew up, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear I love you and all that other stuff. You was trying to get something like that, being fake. But when it came to relationships, I figured they just knew. And that's why I had to apologize to my children growing up. I had to apologize to them when they got older But I learned that simply because I didn't receive something didn't mean that I had to continue that cycle of allowing my children and grandchildren to not hear it. Because like it would feel foreign when somebody say I love you, or when I would hear other people tell their siblings they getting off the phone or their kids and they would say it, it felt foreign to me. So I think now though, I make sure it happens. I make sure the people that I love, like they know, because even if it puts me at a position of discomfort of saying it, because it's like, ugh, because I know in that commitment, I got to live up to a standard.
Right.
So when I say it, I mean it. I'm not just telling, oh, some people just, oh, I love you. Like, you don't even know them, you know, but when I say it, I mean it. And that's why I make sure I hug now. I'm more affectionate now on purpose,
Yeah.
because, and I got to make myself, I got to be cognizant of being a person that shows love now.
Mm.
So, from what I'm gathering, love seems like work,
Mm.
a lot of work.
Mm.
And love seems like a lot of checking of the ego. If I'm gathering what I'm gathering from this conversation, and Tuame, do not get me started on Tyler Perry.
What do you say?
You know, young Timothy, man. Young Timothy is over there working it. And I've kind of, trust me, I see you guys in the chat. I'm getting there. I'm gonna get you guys. I'm gonna bring you guys into the conversation here in a second. But yes, I agree, Chris. You're right, sir. It is work. Um, and I'm a kind of piggyback off of what Roland said, because again, a lot of us was raised under the concept of survival. And under the concept of survival, we were taught survival skills. We weren't in the love and belonging phase. If you was with us a couple of weeks ago, I kind of showed you, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We weren't in the love and belonging phase, right? We were down in survival. So a lot of us started viewing life through the lens of survival. And unfortunately, some people, when it come down to relationship, well, that's how they viewed relationship through the lens of survival, which is a very dangerous place to be, because you will look at a person as a means for you to meet your needs. That's not healthy. When it came down to the concept of expressing, love verbally, I wasn't good at it either. I don't know if I ever shared it with you guys. It took me to where I was almost, I know I was an adult. It probably, I want to say 19 years old before my dad ever told me that he loved me. Again, just one of those things. And just to be honest with you, I didn't see a lot of men in my circle tell a lot of people that they love them. In fact, I didn't really see them tell nobody that they love them. So hindsight 2020, it makes a whole lot of sense that I didn't really express it a whole lot either. But when I did, I did. Like literally, if I told you that I love you, I would give you the shirt off my back, literally. But going back and reflecting over my life, I didn't really see a whole lot of that coming from a man. So moving forward, this man didn't really share a whole lot of that. In fact, like Roland, it would make me a little uncomfortable. You tell me that you love me, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of, you put this coat of goo on me real quick. And it's not that I don't want to say it, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes I would struggle with it. And so learning how to overcome that and understanding that number one, you don't overcome it. So you use it as a crutch to manipulate, right? Because a lot of times you will hear to where people just say, oh, I love you. 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 My goodness, calm down. You know what I'm saying? Like you're using the phrase "I love you" like you use the word "the" in a sentence. Like
Mhm.
make it have meaning. You understand what I'm saying? When you say it, let it mean a thing. Make it significant. I'm not saying not to say it, but you don't have to over embellish it when you do it as well. And so I was growing to that space to where I understand that there is a balance that exists, and within the space of that balance, to where you don't deprive a person from saying it, but you say it enough for the person to understand that they're valued. And I think that's the space I had to get into. But it took me years to get there, Chris. Years, bro. I'm talking about going through the like. 'Cause you got to realize, not seeing it as a man growing up, not hearing it from men growing up, going into the army to where we don't really share it. You know what I'm saying? We're a brotherhood and a fighting force. So we got to be harder than woodpecker lips. It was really, I would tell you, the most significant person that helped me to get over that was Tony Majors, right? Tony Majors was that guy because he challenged what I was thinking. And so Tony Majors was my supervisor when I was in the army. He challenged me, but I didn't like him very much. I told him that. But what I realized is that what he was doing, he actually cared about me. And when he was talking to me one day and trying to help me to understand why he was so hard on me, he said that I see a lot in you and I don't want you to make the same mistakes in life that I made. And I'm like, whoa, that's different. Did this man just tell me that he loved me without him actually saying that he loved me? And so I think a lot of times what we do is we back people in the corner and say, I need to hear the words that I need to hear the way I expect to hear them. No, you need to listen to what the other person is saying, because what the other person is saying, even though it may not necessarily be the words, but they may be saying the words in a different manner. And that's why I bring Tony Majors to this discussion, because what I heard from him is that that man cared enough about me to be a little bit harder on me because he knew it was something in me that needed to come out. And I'm telling you, that's probably one of the most profound conversations I've ever had in my life.
And I think Cassandra, she kind of getting ahead of us over here because I wanted to jump ahead, but I see where she going. Cassandra just jumping. I'm like, yeah, but I know something coming up, and I want to hold it.
I'm telling you, they own it, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Again, we appreciate you guys. We love you guys dearly. Again, share it, pass it along. If you're new to this conversation, by all means, go to YouTube, look up Empower and Perspective. Go ahead and subscribe and share it with your family and friends. Again, because we have conversations like this every week, and our goal is just simply to add value to you and yours. Because these guys are the scores. I'm just a point guard. They do all the heavy lifting. Um, Let me see. For the sake of time, I love you guys, but I got to keep pressing. Listen, we talk about the verbal aspect of it, right? What about the deeds? Because I kind of mentioned it first, and I'll put it out there. I felt that love for me, for men, was based upon performance. So for me, if I do, it's because of who you are to me. So how do men communicate love indeed?
And that's where I was saying Cassandra went with the actions because you can tell me you love me all day, but if it's not backed up by your actions, if because I watch what you do, I don't care what you say. If you can tell me you love me all day, but if you move like you don't,
Hand raise. Say it one time for the people in the back.
One time for the one time. That
I,
was necessary.
Yes.
I watch what you do. I don't care what you say. Like you can tell me you love me all day, but if you treat me like garbage, if you are disrespecting me, if you like my one of my daughters, she's married, and her I was over there, and her friend said, "Bree spoiled," and I was like, "She's supposed to be." She was expecting me to say, I said, "Yeah, she is. She's supposed to be." I'm like, if the man takes her away from my house where she had everything she needed, she's still supposed to have everything she needs plus. He's supposed to show her that he loves her, not just, okay, I love you, I marry you, now we can jump in the bed. No, because after you make that commitment comes work. And work is just that, something that you have to do. You don't always like it, but at the end of the day, it pays off.
So, from what I am gathering, love is an action word when it comes to men.
When it
We,
comes to people,
but if we're speaking,
to
if we're
young men,
speaking, yeah, like if we're speaking as men, our love is based off of the things that we do and not necessarily the things that come out of our mouths. That's why I say it's an action word. We
Janet Jackson
show
said, "What have you done for me lately?"
we show love by doing and
Mhm.
not necessarily being verbal about it, as opposed to our reflection, which is how I like to refer to our women, our reflection.
I like that.
They I'm a Chicago stepper, that's how we talk. um they express how they feel and verbalize it better because they're better at the emotional side of it, so they can express it a lot better when it comes to emotions, even though they can show how they love the same way. But for us, it's like, is the house, you have a house, the mortgage is paid, the bills are paid, you got gas in your car, you don't have to brush your car off in the winter when it's 20 feet of snow outside. I'll shovel you out, I'll cut the grass. You know what I'm saying? Like, doing is our version of showing love, as opposed to being verbal on a
See,
on a on a bigger scale. Am I gathering that correctly? I'm learning, so I'm this is why I'm asking these questions.
I would say so, and it also has to do with how men are raised versus how women are raised. Because when you have little boys and little girls, we play different. Little girls play with dolls, and they actually communicate. Oh, you going over here with Billy, yada yada. They playing with dolls. If we got them, we making noises. We playing with guns. We pow pow bang bang, and so our communication is already at a disadvantage. So when it comes to the love part of expression, we say, "Well, I'm doing." You don't need to hear it if I'm doing, but in her mind, she has a trigger where she may see you do, but she needs to actually hear it. Man, I ain't got to hear it. I'm watching. If you move like you don't, that's what I think. That's my perception. Where women, they may see, yeah, you doing all that, but you ain't told me I was this. You ain't told me I was that. So then it's more about, see, last week I think we talked about the love languages, and I think people get too attached to one love language. Well, this is my love language because you like somebody to feel on you. No, you gotta learn who you are, because when you don't love yourself, a lot of us, the hardest person to love is ourselves because we don't know how. We won't take the time to learn who we truly are, to see what we need to be loved, to feel love. So that we first must love ourselves before we can love anybody else. Because if you don't love yourself, all you're gonna do is damage other people.
Mm.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. Is there a way to discover how to love yourself without being selfish? And here's why I ask that. S- I'm in that stage right now, and I have been called selfish because I put me before everybody else. Because if I don't take care of me, how am I supposed to take care of you? Is there a way to differentiate that, or are they synonymous? I'm asking because I want to learn.
So the answer to the question is yes. There is a way to do that. I kind of want to give a little context before we start just attacking the bare bones question. Roland said something that I resonate with, and I am 100% on board with. You cannot pour from an empty cup. In fact, when I help people, when I share it, one of the things I say is that what's in your cup is not for anybody else. What's in your cup is for you. You have to keep your cup full. You give others the overflow. So if you're constantly filling your cup, you're constantly overflowing. Therefore, the overflow is for someone else. When you get to the point that you're depleted, it's only because all you're doing is giving and you're not getting fed. The key to getting fed is understanding who you are. Now, I created a class a while back, and it breaks down the four versions of who you are. So you need to understand first and foremost your identity, right? Once you understand your identity, then that will give you a clear concept of who you are. Once you have a clear concept of who you are, then you can esteem yourself according to your concept. And then that leads into your social perception or your social expression of that concept. So when you ask that question, the point that I would make is absolutely, in order for you to accurately, and I use this word carefully, to accurately love a person, you need to first have a good understanding of who you are. You need to understand who your creator is. You need to understand what the characteristics of your creator is. And once you understand that, you realize that you were trying to do it from your own power before, and you don't have it. You have to go to your creator to understand that that same characteristic that you're trying to share with other people comes from him through you to them. That's the key. So if you have to segregate yourself to do so, that's okay, because that's part of the process of sanctification. You need to segregate yourself.
Thank you
You
for saying
need,
that.
you're quite welcome. You need to segregate yourself. You need to find peace with being alone. Other than that, you're only attaching yourself to people to fulfill your flesh. That's the key. Once you overcome that desire, then you can actually see people as authentic value within them, right? They're authentic people, they're value added. You just have to understand that you can't use them for your own selfish nature. Once you do that, then you can come out of segregation, right? Because now you're overflowing. You see what I'm saying?
So it's okay to be. This is why I asked the question about being selfish, because segregating yourself to figure out who you are before you integrate yourself with other people is being selfish,
It's
because
necessary.
you're putting yourself and figuring out yourself before you try to figure out everybody else and how to integrate everybody else into your life. That's why I asked, is that synonymous with being selfish? Because I get that a lot. Like, I am learning new things and I'm trying to fill my cup, and I can't keep pouring my feeling into other people's cups if mine isn't full. Like you said, we're supposed to give from the surplus, not from the core. And I'm trying to rebuild my core, and I'm being called selfish for attempting to rebuild my core.
But
How do you get past that?
the only people who call you selfish are the ones that want you to keep pouring into them. The people who understand
The
what you're doing.
manipulators.
Well, I didn't say that, but I'm
I'm
just
saying it. I'm saying it.
but here's the funny part
Time
about it.
stamp it.
Yeah, go understand it. Here's the funny part about it. The people who don't call you selfish are the people who understand what you're doing, and those are the people who are trying and desiring to pour into you.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with it, because when
I'm gonna
you in
write that
relation
down.
when you're in relationship, whether it's male and female, friends, or whatever, that's a pouring of one to another. Sometimes I may have a need, sometimes you may have a need, and then we have other friends outside of this relationship. And that's why, if you shouldn't have relationships where there's no benefit, period. And I'm not saying financial or whatever, but every relationship that you have has to benefit you. If not, it's a waste of time. It has to benefit you. Either you're teaching them, they're teaching you, you're able to do something. But every relationship has to benefit. Where there's no benefit, it takes away from you and goes nowhere. So it's worthless.
If you're the
Like eating rice
teacher,
cakes.
if you're the teacher in all your relationships, all you're doing is pouring. If you're the student in some of your relationships, that's where you get to fill your cups. There are some relationships where you're going to be the spectator, an observer. That's it. You're not a teacher nor the student, but that's okay as well, because whoever the teacher is, you're probably a peer. So it's okay to actually be poured into. And sometimes what we have done with the word selfish, we make self improvement, self development, we've tried to turn that into a bad thing with the word selfishness. You have to understand something. You developing yourself is for someone else. That's the key. You develop, there's somebody someplace that is waiting for you to reach your pinnacle so that you can just pour into about 50 to 100 people at the same time. That's how it works.
And that's part of what Twami was saying about how when men, sometimes it seems like when men are in a relationship with one woman and then she goes through the building up of him and he's trying to build himself. And then when he goes, that relationship is dissolved and he goes to the next person, that person gets a better person, a better person in a relationship. And then they like, well, he wasn't like that with me. No, because you didn't see it all the way through. And when you're in a relationship and there's damage and there's hurt, sometimes you will overlook the building blocks that he had to get over and those things that allowed him to grow into the person who he is now. And
Right.
then looking like, well, he wasn't like that. No, he wasn't. He grew into this person. Men grow into whoever they are to become. That's why a man getting married at 21, don't do it. Don't do it because most men aren't necessarily mature enough to handle a relationship because they don't know themselves and they don't necessarily know how to treat the woman. All they know how to do is be up under their mother.
Mm.
Not to mention, a lot of them don't have anything. And in today's society, we have to produce, meaning we have to have something. We have to have resources. Most men at the age of 21 don't have those resources. So
Right.
Right.
getting married early, unless you know that she's a ride or die and she's going to ride with you while you get those resources, I wouldn't recommend it either. We got to have something now. That's the market. That's the market.
And that's why we tell them, take your time, young man. Hey,
Used to say.
my mama used to say, hey, listen.
Tawami said something though.
What did he say? Which one?
Tawami said,
Was it this one?
so you had it up. You had it up.
Or
It
was
was
it that one?
about that one. That one about women being emotional creatures with an image of love that they want.
Yeah.
I've here's here's what I've and ladies, don't crucify me for this, but this is what I've seen. A lot of and I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna drop it because we're supposed to be talking about men, but this is something that we as men have to deal with when we're referring to love when it comes to somebody else, especially the woman that we want to date and be with. A lot of women out there have a movie playing in their head that's starring them, that's directed by them. They're the producer. They do all of these roles and play all of these things, but there are two things that a lot of them don't do. First of all, they're not really good at casting because a lot of the relationships that they've been in this movie, the role that they want the person that is playing that role, you know what I'm saying? The role that they want him to play, he ain't fit for. And two, they don't edit the movie for a different outcome that might be better than the one that's playing in their head. That's what we have to deal with. Okay, I'm gonna mute my mic because I feel like I'm talking too much and I don't want to get coach canceled.
No, man, you're
Oh,
good, brother.
yeah.
You good. You good.
But that's true. But that's a way women grow up. Remember, women plan weddings from knee high to a grasshopper, and men just show up when he at the end of the aisle. You ain't in the
Mm.
planning, you in the paying, but you ain't in the planning and none of that stuff. Get your suit. You thinking about the bachelor party. Show up at the other end of the aisle. They gonna play some slow song by Luther. She gonna walk down, and you gonna say I do, and you ain't gonna remember. Women got it planned out. They remember everything. Men don't even care. We can go to just a piece. We can do it in the backyard, in the front yard, living room. It don't even matter.
With Uncle Clifford on the barbecue grill.
Right, you know?
Listen,
But
I told my lady right out the gate, listen, I'm not going into my marriage in debt. Big weddings do not have any kind of equity. We are gonna go get a few people that we really care about that want to be there. We about to sign this piece of paper and then we about to throw a big party. But I'm not renting out no church. I'm not no, for what? I'm not here for the spectacle. No, that's you.
See, but
I'm here for the party. Let's celebrate the fact that we married, but I don't need to waste $20,000 on a dress that you only gonna wear once.
I agree
No,
with you from a man's perspective, but it's not your wedding, dude. That day that's her. Women, like
man,
I said,
listen.
they've been waiting on this since they were doggone 7 years old. They've
That
been marrying
sounds like
little
a personal problem.
they've been marrying little dolls. So now that's why I compromise. That's why you talk and say, babe, we can do this versus us just feeding all these Negroes and then we got an open bar. And no, we ain't gonna do all that. We gonna, that's why you have to make sure when it comes across from your lips to her ear, it's said right so she will receive it. Because if you say it like that, you saying it like that because it's two dudes on here. You can tell us that, and we'll be like, yeah, but you can't go home and tell mama that. Because mama she gonna get in her ego then.
Not the ego.
Oh, the ego, we
But
all have.
yeah, man. Yeah, man. Listen, man. You guys are awesome. You got to keep pressing because we're gonna bust time, and I appreciate everybody who's on. Again, shout out to the comments. Welcome, Nicole. Good to see you. Again, Nicole Adams, good friend of mine out of Lawton, Oklahoma. Good to go catering. We appreciate you being on the show, and you're welcome back anytime. Um, we're about to get into it here, and brother minister gonna throw the book at y'all. I'm waiting on it. It's gonna be good. Question: Is there a correlation between the law, any law, your choice, and love? I'm gonna
The
sit back
only
on
one
this
that I can think of is the one that I quoted last week, which is the law of equivalent exchange. Humankind cannot gain anything without first sacrificing something in return. To obtain anything, something of equal value must be lost. If you want me to love you, then you have to show me love the way that I understand it and not the way that you feel like I deserve it. That's the only law that I can think of. Now, I'm going to mute my mic because this is the part where I learn.
All through we talking about law. I'm gonna go scripture. All through the scriptures, you see where your love is shown by keeping the commandments or doing what I have said to do, and is tied to obedience. Uh, I know they took that part out when they say, the marriage vows, the obedience part, but that obedience part was there for a reason. And it's not there for me to lord over you, but it's there because if we're on the bicycle, one of those, not unicycles, whatever the bicycle with the person in the back of you, and both of y'all are pedaling, whatever it's called. And I'm in the front, I see where we're going. That's what the man is supposed to be. He sees where we're going. So if I'm leading this thing and I say we're going here, you get like when I used to ride motorcycles, I hated riding with people that were scared, or if they didn't know how to lean, get off my bike because you're gonna make us crash. So I think when it comes to law, it has to be when I say law, I'm looking at scripture, and yes, it's tied because if you do this, tandem bikes, there you go. See, I went to public school. We ain't had no tandem bikes, and
Shout out to the chat.
They're awesome, aren't they?
yeah, but in the whole scripture, it is. Twami said it. It's about loving God through obedience to Him, and under God is man, under man is woman, and family, and so forth. So it's just a trickle down effect of obedience, but obedience is not blind obedience. It's tied to you've seen my actions, you've seen how I treat you, you know that I have your best interest in mind with everything that I'm doing. So oh yeah, the law is definitely tied to love.
Yeah. I don't detect any flaws or errors in what you guys or anybody in the chat is saying here. Um, I want to make it make sense for me. Because I understand that the law of sacrifice tells me that to gain something greater, I have to be willing to give up something lesser. And Chris, My friend, I'm going to take a page out of your book. For me to gain love, I need to give up my ego. So the more I can decrease, the more he can increase. I take that and I tie it to what John says in First John. He says that God is love, and it's just to kind of sum up. I don't want to give you play by play, but he says that God is love, and he says if we love, it is because of him in essence, not because of anything that was instilled in me, not because of my mom and my daddy, not because of what I've seen growing up, but because I learned him. And in learning him, I realized that love is really his thing. It wasn't my thing. I had to get it from here. I kind of talked about it earlier. So the more I exercise the law of sacrifice, I'm talking universal law right now. The more I exercise the law of sacrifice, the closer I can draw to him. Well, again, it was said in the chat, obedience is better than sacrifice, right? So once I gain him, then that helps me to understand his ways. As I understand his ways, now I can lean in what Roland said, right? The, going back to the scriptures, understand his commandment, understanding his will. And then that takes me back to my favorite scripture, Romans 12 and 2. Um, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by renewing your mind so that I can prove his will. So I don't really care what the world is doing. The only thing that matters is what he wants, his will. And so the world may teach love as being this grand emotion that I have whenever I come in a person's presence. But at the end of the day, I realize that it's not. In fact, when I view relationship now, I don't even review it. I don't even view it as just two people. I view it as three. And the most important person in the relationship is the one that's in the middle. And so the one that's in the middle is love. So for me, what I have to do is fall in love so that I can love the other person. So when we start looking at these laws, I mean, young Timothy hit the nail on the head. The entirety of the scripture of law, the entirety of the scripture law is about God, neighbor, your health, family, all this other stuff, right? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and love thy neighbor as thyself. Here's the deal. Before she became your wife, she was your neighbor. At least I hope so. I hope you took the time to get to know her. I hope you took the time to exercise brotherly love. So, with that being said, it is impossible to get to what we call love without understanding Him first and sacrificing my ego to get a greater awareness of who He is. So, that's why I wanted to inject that because that kind of helps us to understand the world has been deceiving you for years about love.
Hmm. I'm with you. And that's when the scripture says love endureth all things. We've watched too much TV when we should have been at work, and they got those divorce attorneys on there because she burned your grits, she didn't make your bed right, she didn't do this or he didn't do that. And we take all these things, the measuring stick of what we saw on TV that they didn't do, instead of working at these things, we work ourselves out of relationships because we say they didn't do that, so they don't love me. No, you love it like, hey, it's action word, it's work. It's not like you just get into it and everything's, yeah, at the beginning, everything good. You don't mind him passing gas a little bit. But then y'all in the bed, you could have took your funky tail to the bathroom. You saying stuff like that because that honeymoon period has worn off and now the work starts. It's like when we first went to Iraq, you on that plane, you all hyped, and then you get out there in that 140-degree temperature and you on the doggone a tank and you burning yourself or you doing this and things, rockets are flying. Now the work starts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look at man. You guys are awesome. I just got to stress it. In the chat, you guys are amazing. We appreciate you guys. Let's take us to our last portion where we give advice to the teenagers, the young men, and the moms raising boys. Gentlemen, what do you want to leave our audience with?
I'm gonna leave this to y'all. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna leave this to y'all because I'm learning this myself. So maybe something that you two say can translate into my life, and I can take that and learn how to do this. This is the part. Yeah, this is on y'all. I'm gonna mute my mic.
I think I want to go first before you say what I'm gonna say, Dwayne. I had her,
No, you
but
good, man.
I think for teenagers, young men, and moms raising boys, don't be so quick to think you want to fall in love. Fall in love with loving yourself and loving your creator. When you find out who you really are and who you want to become, then you can bring people in. Because what happens is if you don't love yourself already, which you think you do because you put nice clothes on and cologne and all that other stuff, but loving yourself entails you actually realizing that you are worth everything to yourself. And you don't want to, that's why you not somebody that loves themselves not going to put themselves in damaging situations. So when you love yourself and you find out who you really are and you want to express that with somebody else, then and only then should you bring somebody in. Because if you don't, you're going to damage that other person and you're going to be flip flopping from bed to bed, love to love, quote fingers in the air, and woman to woman, man to man, whatever that may be. And you'll find yourself in a cycle, a never ending cycle of feelings and depression because you didn't find out who you were from the get go.
Yeah, you did take what I was going to say, but that's fine. Go ahead, Chris.
I guess I do have something
Go ahead.
because we spoke to this earlier. It's okay to be selfish when you need to figure out how to love yourself. It's okay. It's all right. If they call you selfish because you need to figure out who you are, then you already know that that type of person isn't the person that you need around you. If you have people around you that are trying to help you figure out who you are, but are still giving you your space and letting you figure things out on your own, those are the kind of people that you need to be around. I guess that's the main gist of what I got from this conversation. We have to learn what that is and rewire our brains to understand that loving yourself always has to come first, meaning you have to fill your cup before you can pour into other people. If that means that you're being selfish, then so be it. Sometimes you have to do that. I'm in that stage myself, so I'm speaking from experience. It's okay to love yourself, and it's okay to figure out what that is, and it's okay to block people out that's not trying to help you. Doesn't make you selfish, it makes you smart. And I'm gonna mute my mic.
Man, that was good. Both of them was good. Um, I don't. I mean, really, you guys kind of took a lot of what I was going to say, but um, I will start off, and I want to talk to each one. For teenagers, I kind of did my rendition of singing. Don't worry about it. I don't have a career in singing, so I wasn't trying to be good. Um, but take your time. Take your time, young man. Um, one of the I think one of the best pieces of advice I can give a teenager is go find your father, sit down with your father, and ask your father, what would be the thing that you would share with me about love that you wish you knew when you were my age? Let me say that part again. Ask your father, what would be the thing that you would share that you can share with me about love that you wish you knew when you was a teenager? Now, for those of you who don't have the ability to do that, or you don't feel like your father gave you a quote unquote good enough answer, go find a uncle that's been in your life. Go find your grandfather, and mom is a great resource as well because mom will give you some valuable tips about love. Trust me, throughout history, men have hurt enough women to where they got a laundry list of stories that they can tell you. Don't be afraid to gain information about love. And don't be so fast to claim that you're in love. Right now, you're too young to understand it. In fact, what you're experiencing is your physical nature telling you that you're in love. You're not really in love. That's affection that you're feeling, not love. So again, take your time, talk to adults, and have them to paint a picture so you can get a better understanding of of love. Go back to what Chris just said. Get a better understanding of yourself as well. That's a perfect. I mean, I can't stress that piece enough. Uncovering your identity should be your primary focus right now. Identity. Understand who you are. Your identity is comprised of 50% mom, 50% dad. If you're only getting one side of the story, you're leaving yourself unaware of the other side, and you will spend a great portion of your life using people trying to figure out who you are. That's not going to do you good, and you're going to damage a lot of women en route to understanding your identity. So have the conversation now. Do not be afraid to ask difficult questions. If you feel embarrassed, good. That's the question that you need to ask. So sit down, talk to them, ask questions. Young men who are out there in the world, you're alone, you're unafraid. Listen, do what Chris is doing right now. Did I point the wrong direction again? Yes. Do what Chris is doing right now, right? Segregate yourself. Take the time to understand you. Read some books to give you a better understanding of the things that you need to know. I tell you a great place to start on what we was just talking about. Go read the book of First John. First John will open your eyes to some things that you did not know if you've never read it. And then after reading it, go sit down with a more senior man and ask him, what does this mean? Help me to understand, what does he mean by this? We love him because he loved us first. Wait, what? What does that really mean? Help me to understand that. Talk to somebody more senior to you. Get a mentor. Talk to them before you continue moving in the direction, creating babies, and not necessarily have to stay in power with them. Have a conversation with a more senior male just to uncover some things so that you can know, be, and do better. Moms, I want to just kind of put something up here because this is why we do what we do every week. Share this information with your son. Share this information with your nephew. Pass it on to friends so that they can share it as well. I appreciate everybody in the chat, but this right here made my day. Just seeing this. And I don't have to speak for these men because they're very articulate on their own. We appreciate that. Every time we get a message like this, it does my heart good because this is the reason why we dedicate an hour of our life on Friday evenings with you. And I apologize for going over, but I think that this was a very important conversation that we needed to uncover. So for you guys, you're doing an awesome job, moms. Continue to invest in them young men. Continue to break through the barrier and cast down what the world is teaching, right? Be not conformed to this world. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you can prove the will of God. The will of God is to raise them boys up in the ways that they should go, right? Reintroduce their father into their life if they're not there because they need them. He needs them. We need them. That's why we're doing what we're doing. The things that we're seeing right now, man, it I'm not gonna lie, it upsets me. Your child, your son, your nephews, that's the future. So we need you guys to pass this information onto them. So sorry, I was getting a little worked up just now, but because I'm the coach. Listen, we appreciate you guys. Listen, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday evening. Again, go ahead and share it. Go to YouTube and go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notification button so you know that we're on every week. And with that being said, we will see you again, same time, same place, right here next Friday. And I think we're going to talk about making the right career choice. I'm going to see if I can get them to buy into it. But Georgia plays Tennessee tomorrow. Is going to be the best game of the year, and I think you guys, I think you guys will be pleased with the outcome. So that being said, have a great Friday evening and blessings to you all.